Hello, hello, hello. We're back.
Long time, huh?
Yes. Woohoo.
Been a minute, as they say.
Hey, those Mother's Day, what was it? Mothers and Sons Conference and Men and Boys Conference. Those were exciting, but I missed my sis and coffee chat.
You too. I was like, I feel lost on Thursdays.
We are back today. Good evening, good evening. Welcome, everyone. I see you out there, Dan, Deacon Holmes. Thank y'all for tuning in. You can see we're having fun. We are so excited to be back here. Dan, Deacon Holmes.
I got to cut it off. Yeah.
Oh, I just want to thank everyone for always reaching out to pray for us, sending those comments, sharing, and likes. We appreciate it so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you. As you know, this month we are talking about the blueprint for next level education. Next level education, not just education, but next level. So that encompasses a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, one of the things we're going to be talking about today is educators. But We hear all about issues coming from the students. We hear about the pressures of the parents. But what about the educators? They
Yeah.
must learn like creative and innovative ways to teach the children while maintaining order in the class. They don't receive the best pay. They
Yeah.
have to purchase a lot of materials that they need for their classrooms, for the instructions that they want to do, because schools in different parts of the state, as you will see later, not everybody gets a good uh, pot, a bucket, a budget of money to use in order to help the teachers. But they have to stay 100%, because if they're not 100%, then they have repercussions. They want to, place them at other schools, put them on probation, whatever. And then we know about mental health. So if an educator has all these things going on, not to mention their own private lives, how is their mental health going?
Mm-hmm.
What things matter to educators, and how are they treated? What do you think, Carol?
Wow, so many things that you talked about, so many obstacles that they have to face. And sometimes, people think that it's just, oh, they don't do anything. They just go and show up and that's it. But just think about if you are having to service in elementary school, maybe 20 to 20 students, let's say max. You've got to know something about each one of those students. You have to know something about their parents, their background, and all those kind of things. And then try to teach them, like you were saying, in a new, innovative way. And the kids, every kid doesn't have the same privilege and opportunity to come to school ready to learn, like you mentioned. Some of them have not had breakfast, might not have had any dinner. And so
Right.
I think teachers now have to be so concerned with even not their social life, but even their home life, that perhaps 20 years ago or 15 or 10 years ago, it wasn't near as profound as it is now. But it is just so many things that they have to be concerned with. They've got to be counselors, they got to be the nurse. They got to be, sometimes they've got to be the ride home. So if they in a situation like that, but it's just so many things that I think people don't consider, all the things that an educator do. And not to mention that they got to make sure test scores are done. They got to make sure records are kept. I mean, the list goes on. So I'm glad today we are going to bring some attention to the educators. Now, some people say, well, I don't like that teacher, but you know what? Think about some of the things she's doing for your babies, and maybe you will have some grace for her anyway, or him.
That's right. Yep.
Yes.
So we are talking about educators. And so we're going to dive into maybe 4 areas that I think parents, grandparents, guardians, excuse me, the school board, everyone needs to look into. Mayor. And I'm going to start out with salaries.
Wow.
Because, when I was young, I used to play school and I used to say, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a teacher. Boy, when I look at some of these salaries, I'm like, okay, I'm glad I didn't become a teacher, and I'm laughing. But hey, I'm serious. When you think about the time that a teacher spends with the children, teaching them, and like I say, they have to go to be educated for that. They have to pass exams. They have to get recertified, and they have to keep, up with what's changing, all of
Mm-hmm.
this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do some research, and I was like, oh my goodness. Now, this is not the salaries here, but this is how much different states think about education, because we know in public schools that one reason why they're always on attendance is that each child, they allot monies by the children. So for each child, some amount of money. So up in New York, now they give $30,867 per student.
Mm.
Come to my state, Florida,
Uh-huh.
We get $12,488. That's
Mm-hmm.
not even half of what they're giving for the teachers to use as resources and all of that in New York. Not even
Mm-hmm.
half.
Mm.
And then Georgia is right across the border from us, and they only get just a tad more. They get $14,083.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a huge difference. So then I had to go look. Yeah, I had to go look at those salaries. So I'm going to give you all uh, five highest salaries, and then I'm going to give you five lowest salaries.
Wow. Wow. Mm-hmm.
So the number one state where teachers make the most is California.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers there start out, or they make on average, I take that back, on average, they make $95,160. So starting out with 95. New York is number two with 92,696. Massachusetts, third with 92,307. Washington State is 86,804. And then Washington, D.C. is 84,882. Now, you
Mm.
heard those numbers, eights and nines, eights and nines. Now, check out these five lowest states. Make you want to cry.
Mm. Mm-mm.
The most of the five highest, so starting at number 47, Missouri, 53,999. Mississippi, 53,354. South Dakota, 53,153. Florida, 53,098. And then West Virginia at 52,870. Hey, some of y'all put something in the chat. What do y'all think about these salaries? What do y'all think about these salaries?
Yes.
And then it says, according to a new survey by the RAND Corporation, teachers work an estimated not 40, not 42, but 53 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
53 hours a week. Now, you
Wow.
just think about it. They have to do lesson plans. They have to teach. They have to check papers. They have to do testing. They have to go on field trip. They have to do a lot of things, but they work 53 hours a week.
Mm.
Come on, people. Our educators, to me, these are essential workers, essential workers.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing I want to say, teachers also report much less satisfaction with their best base pay based on other working adults. So all the people in all the jobs, just think about it. You got clerical jobs, admin, factory, all of that. 25% of their work is uncompensated.
Yep.
Whew.
Yep. Not a pretty picture, huh?
Not a pretty
Not
picture.
at all. Not at all. Mm-mm.
Yes.
And the funniest thing, Deborah, I started teaching in 1972. My first paycheck was $504 clear. $504. I was, even back then, I was just shocked that it was such a small amount of money. But that was the, that was it. That was the profession I chose to be in. And not to mention, like, we're going to talk about resources here, not to mention that you got to spend part of that on classroom supplies. So yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like that comment there. Like the comment there, educators are one of the less respected professions in terms of salary.
that's right. And isn't that amazing that everybody who has a job professionally or whatever had to have a teacher?
Wow.
No one has a job or career without having to have encountered or experienced education, a teacher at some sort. Amazing, huh?
Amazing.
Yes. Wow. Well, I'm going to talk about resources, and you've kind of talked about that a little bit. But, like you said, we have a lot of high expectation on the student's outcome. People put so much emphasis on the outcome, the testing. If it's not where, if it's not where it needs to be. And so the outcomes are always on the educator, and they're expected to achieve stuff achieve all this and make kids successful, meet all these needs and resources and all of that, and to meet all of the things that they've asked them to do, meet all of the criterias and all those things, but without resources, without supplies. And so teachers lack the materials they need, and they are forced they are forced many times to spend money and take time out of their own money and supplement the supplies that the children need. Nobody ever thinks about that. We're good at coming in on teacher parent night and looking at the beautiful rooms. And I love elementary teachers because they go way over and above. I mean, I was a middle school teacher. I'd be walking around like, wow, all of this. But they had to spend their money. They probably get a little bit of stipend, but I grant you, some of the things that they had in those classrooms, not at all. They did not have to, they had to spend their own money. And then we know culturally, thinking about teaching children different cultures, sometimes those books aren't available, and those kids have to go in there and spend that kind of money. Technology is good, but if technology is not working, or if every kid may not be able to I remember when I was teaching, every kid couldn't afford a calculator. So you would have to go out and spend your money, especially when we went to the big scientific calculators, and those things were a lot of money. And so you spend your money because you do not want the kids to not have the same experience. And so they talk about different resources and being able to have differentiate kind of looking at the kids and their ability and being able to address them at that level. It takes resources to be able to do that. And I'm like you, I was like, okay, let me pull some facts and some figures here. And so it says 94% of teachers spent money on classroom supplies. They said a higher percentage of teachers in traditional public schools spend about 94% spent their own money. 94% of these teachers spent their own money on classroom supplies than teachers in public charter school, which it was about 88%. And then it says among these teachers who spent any of their own money on classroom supplies without reimbursement, let's remember, they're not going to get reimbursed. And the average for them was that they were spending approximately $478, never getting it back. A median was like $297, and about 44% spent $250 or less, while 36% spent $251 to $500. So, and then if you live in a suburban or a rural area, they said it might be about $469 for the suburban, $447 for those that live in town, and the rural areas spend about $443. And so people, they spend their money to educate our children. And so we just have to kind of consider that. And we'll talk a little bit about more how we can help the teachers, but just think about, and that may be what they spend at the beginning of school, not to mention those things that they have to spend later on if it's something. I mean, things like, I don't know if they give them this, but batteries for those calculators, All
right.
Then you have to make sure you're keeping up with the calculators, and you got to make sure they're all marked. And now they got tablets and all those and think about that. Now you got to become not only a teacher, but you got to become fluent in using the computer so you can help the kids. So
right.
It's quite a bit. And I pray that we will learn to appreciate our educators. Like you said, we talked about the kids, we talked about the parents. What about our educators? And it's unfortunately now a lot of the young college graduates, they're not going into education.
Nope.
They're not going into education. So what are we going to do? I guess we'll have to have some robots or something. I don't know.
No.
But yeah, they're not going. And let me just say this, and let me stop off my soap opera. But Now you got all of these things you've got to do. And then let's talk about discipline in the classroom. And things are far removed from where it was when we were in school. There was a level of trust that parents had with the teachers, and so they knew if you spanked little Johnny, you were spanking him because he did something. But now it's like, don't touch my kid no matter how bad he is. You know what I'm saying? No matter how disrespectful or any of those things. And so it's a new era for educators now. And so you have to appreciate the teachers. That's all I can say, and try to do what we can to assist them. It really used to be PTA meant parent teachers,
Right.
association, and it really meant that. But now it's almost like sometimes we're just in odds with each other. So anyway, that's my spiel.
Oh, that's good. That's good. If you just joined us, we're talking about at our coffee chat, we're talking about educators. We hear a lot about parents and how they feel and how the students feel. What about the educators?
Yes.
What about the educators? So that's what we're talking about. Now, I'm going to be talking about, good evening, Agnes. How are you? I'm going to be talking about disruption, the disruption.
Yeah.
Now, you got the teachers in the classroom. They're not getting paid. They're working 53 hours a week. Then you sending Johnny up there, and you don't discipline Johnny, and teacher got to deal with Johnny, and she can't discipline. She can't even raise her voice at him. What is she supposed to do?
Well, all right.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm going to look at it from two different perspectives now.
Okay.
But
Mhm.
okay, first of all, I want to say, they took the prayer out of school. That was one thing.
Okay.
All right. Then after they took prayer out, then no discipline. So not only can the teachers not raise their voice or even pretend they're going to hit at somebody, you can't even discipline your kids and let anybody see you, because you could go to jail too. And guess what? The kids know that.
They
So
do.
the educators' hands are tied. They go to school and they do what they want to do, and they dare you to do anything or say anything. I don't care if you call my mom. I don't care. I don't care. They're not going to do anything. I don't care. So, so not only do they have to use their resources, not getting paid that much, they're trying to teach because they have a job, and a lot of our educators, they love teaching. So then you got to handle those that are disrupting the class, just keeping you from teaching the ones that want to learn. And you
Right.
don't just have to be educated at school to know this. Anybody that work in children's ministry, we have the same thing. Hello.
They come to church and Sunday school, right?
Right. They look at you like, and I just act like I don't know any better. I just lose my mind. Look at him. You gonna sit it down. So, it's sad when something happens, and like you say, it used to be parent teacher association that was together, working together for the best of the child. Now it's, okay, I need to speak with you because this is what happened, and the parent has already have an attitude when they get there, and it's like, yes, but your child always right. And you can't do that. And, and I'm not saying something that I wouldn't do, because I was one. Okay, so what happened? Okay, and so y'all wasn't taking tests. Y'all wasn't doing anything. She just wouldn't let me go to the restroom. You wasn't taking a test. Nope, no ma'am. I said, okay, now I'm going to school. Before I can get to the classroom good. Hi. Yes, I understand. I told him as soon as we finished with the test, he could go to the. Oh, wait till you get home. You cannot always take their side. It's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. So you gotta sit and talk. Not to say that everybody is going to be fair. We still have bias. We still have people that just not gonna like your child. But come on, just give the educators a break you know your child, you think you know your child, but honey, my son be telling me some stuff he did. I'm like, you did what? Not you. So, get the teacher's perspective. Don't always go ready to
Yes.
fight, ready to do whatever. But if your child is being mistreated, then that's a whole different story. That's
Totally
a
different.
whole different coffee chat.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But then on the other side, their times have changed, and again, the educators, they cannot discipline. They have to be creative, they have to be proactive, they got a lot of things that they need to be doing. So instead of making demands and making this, stop and ask questions. And now
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the educators. So you know what you cannot do, but instead of having that battle with your students, as Carol stated earlier, you never know what's really going on in somebody's house. So you got to get to know your students. So you
Mm-hmm.
have that student and you see that student, and every time you look around, they nod and they sleepy. Okay, don't just think, oh, you sit up and watch TV and you sleepy. Find out about the child. Hi, how are you? You are only child? You have brothers and sisters? Oh, yes, I have six brothers. Six brothers. Yeah, I got six brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
nice. Yeah, and I get so tired because my mom works two jobs.
Right.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my mom works two jobs, and then I have to, make sure I'm the oldest, so I have to make sure that they eat. I have to make sure they get their homework done because if my mom comes home and they haven't done their homework, I'm gonna be in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't do my homework until they've had their bath, they've done their homework, the kitchen is clean. So sometimes I get tired.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So then that's not a child that's just drifting off, that's not concerned with their education. So
Mm-hmm.
you may find, a way to work with that child.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't just always, take it for granted that that child wants to be disruptive. That child is just trying to get away with something. They don't care. Learn your students. Learn your students.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Deborah, one other thing to add to that is we know that the homeless population is huge everywhere. And
Yes.
there are many kids sometimes have slept in their cars or various places, but we have to be a little bit more, as an educator, be a little bit more compassionate about, like you said, get to know the students, find out what's really going on, and not just make a quick decision and group them into one category and not really try to find out what's really going on with them. And so, like I said, it's PTA, parents, teachers. We got to work together for the betterment of for the children. And so, with that, I want to talk about how to encourage our educators. How to encourage our educators. Sometimes we don't want to pay the teachers very much money, and we don't want to take into consideration all the things that they spend. Even with technology, they got so many things that they have to add to the classroom. We don't want to take that into consideration. But sometimes we think that teachers are these superheroes that they take off one outfit and put on the cape, and they got to go. And we don't, and we want to praise them sometimes for that, because some of them are superheroes. But sometimes if we put that kind of stigma on them, sometimes that can make them go far beyond what they are capable of doing or able to do, and lead them into thinking about, I got to get this done. I got, because I got to live up to this expectation and all of that. But, we have to agree that teaching is one of the most challenging roles in our society, and educators shouldn't have to go above and beyond the call of duty to be doing invaluable and praiseworthy work. We need to just let them be the best teachers they can be, and stop. If you got 30 kids and you got 30 parents with all these different expectations, they cannot be that to everybody.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is just help them. And remember, I want to encourage us to show some gratitude to our amazing teachers. There are some amazing, and like you said, now most of them are there because they have a heart to want to teach. And so we want to just be advocates for the working condition of teachers, and don't get on that soap opera using those words against teachers, telling everybody they're not doing anything because you're not satisfied with what they're doing. And so you as a parent got to go in and find out what's going on. Like you said, it's two sides and the truth. And so we've got to be willing, I always say, willing to be compassionate and willing to communicate with one another, and then and be considerate. But I wrote down a few things that I think that would help encourage our educators. Sometimes if you can go in and buy some supplies, ask her what she needs, and then, or either go before school starts and ask her what is her theme, or what is she going to do to put in her classroom. Can you assist? Just think, if every parent chipped in and bought something, it wouldn't be such a heavy load on her or anyone else. But I also want to encourage you, pray for your teachers. They need our prayers. So that would be one thing I would say. Let's start out praying for your particular students' teachers. Pray for them every morning. Pray for your students, pray for your child, and pray for that teacher. And now we certainly need to pray for safety in our schools, because that used to not be a problem. But we need to make sure we're covering our kids, make sure that they're being safe. And I know there's been a lot of things put in place to ensure that we have that kind of safety protection. But just send them a little inspirational note. I talk about the power of words and words. You'd be surprised how one word can make that teacher change or feel like she's important, because sometimes they feel like they're insignificant. Nobody appreciates them. Right. So how do we start? I think Coach always says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you begin to change the narrative of, what teachers are not doing and they don't deserve and they get paid? You change it by appreciating and showing gratitude to your children's teacher. Or even if you're not, if you don't even have a student in class, in school, what's wrong with randomly send a teacher a note at a school and just say, I'm praying for you today, and here's a scripture I want you to remember. So send little notes and words of encouragement. And of course, everybody know that if you can send a box of Kleenex, because I've subbed with middle school, with babies, the elementary, baby, they need a lot of Kleenex. They need lots of Kleenex. And just think, if you can afford to buy all of your child's supplies, why not buy an extra set and just give it to the teacher? Because trust me, there may be some kid there who truly cannot afford to buy. Parents can't afford to buy the supplies. And so one thing I do know, that typically teachers do not want kids to feel like there's a difference being made in them. I pray that they are. And so if we don't want one kid sitting up with all these supplies, and I think that's why they start making them bring all the supplies, put them in the cabinet, and just divvy them out like that, because it doesn't make the other child who doesn't have anything feel bad. So boxes of Kleenex, whatever they needed, if they need some batteries for the computers or technology or something, And I would also say, if you are ever able to go up and just be in the classroom and assist, check some papers, just help in that way. And that would be a lot of help. And that would be so much encouragement for our teachers. But for me, don't talk down and don't talk bad about your child's teacher to them. That's the worst thing I think we can do. We can disagree as adults, but don't send that same message to your child, or you in the car talking about his teacher and all those kind of things. So if we could just change that narrative, and then for educators, stay out of the teacher's lounge talking about your students as well, because it's the same way. Little Johnny may not have the best situation, and he may be the worst kid there is, but sometimes so much goes on in that I almost said locker room, but in the in the lounge. And so we just have, my word is just stay considerate and stay compassionate to the students, as well as as parents and all of us. Just have some compassion for the educators and have some empathy and sympathy for them, because they are going through, there's a lot, like you said, state test, all of those things that they've got to try to make sure all of the kids, and that's pressure to make sure, and knowing that your little bitty salary depends upon whether your child those students pass the test.
Right.
It's really a lot. So, and you said something about mental health. They are teachers, but they are human just like we are, and they can have mental overloads as well. That's my spiel, girl.
That's good. That's good, girl. That's good. All right. I want to say this. You're talking about, not saying, talking about the teacher in front of the child.
Mm-hmm.
And it's regardless of what it is, because trying to think what grade my son was in. I want to say the youngest one. I think he was in second or third, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just happened to walk into class one day, and the teacher was like, "Well, what's wrong with him?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean? What's wrong with him?" She's like, "I think he has epilepsy." I said, "Epilepsy?" She's like, "Yes." I said, "Why do you say that?" Because he acts like my brother. I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Oh, he just be sitting in his seat and he'll fall on the floor."
Mm.
I'm like, okay. So, and she was doing some other things too, but I called him. I said, "Come here a minute. Let me talk to you." I said, "Why you fall in that chair?" I said, "Okay, do we need to go out to the van?" "No, ma'am." I said, "Okay, fall out another chair." There was nothing wrong with him, but why would she jump immediately from like something like he has epilepsy because he fell in that chair? He wasn't crying, he wasn't hurt. You didn't call me and say he might be hurting anything. So of course you didn't know anything was wrong. But she was marking his paper with these big red marks. She was doing everything to him. So I talked with the principal, but at the end of the day, she was like, "Well, we don't have anywhere to move him to." So I asked him, I said, I called which one it was. I said, "How do you like your teacher?" "Oh, I like her." I said, "She mean to you?" "No, ma'am." I said, "She ever treat you mean or say mean things to you?" "No, ma'am." I said, "Okay. So long as you wasn't mistreating my child, I was fine." But I didn't tell him that until he was like a teenager. He's talking about, "What?" She said, "Why you didn't tell me?" I said, "She wasn't doing anything to you because I would have handled it." But
that's right.
Good. So you say so. What would that have done if I had said things in front of him?
Right.
And he didn't want to go to school, and he's been telling the other kids, but she said so.
Yeah. Or
words.
Right. And you said something too, Deborah. You said he liked the teacher. And had you had said something, you could have changed his whole thinking about the teacher, because he already said he liked her, and I agree. We have to make sure we're involved, because sometimes they will diagnose our children with the wrong diagnosis, but you have to be, that's what I mean. You got to be involved, as a parent, you got to be involved, and you got to be able to know your child. I mean, like I said, I know the same thing. I walked up on my son one day, he in the music class, all slumped all down like he wasn't going to sing. And I just rolled up in there. He didn't know I was coming. I rolled up in there and I tapped him on the shoulder. And I said, "This how you supposed to be sitting in your class?" Like that. Oh, he was really nervous. But, little bitty things like that, you got to stay on, because he was trying to cut up a little bit. But, we had to eventually get that together. And, like I said, but not to mention, because one time in high school, he was talking about one of his teachers and something about some clinics in high school, and you needed some clinics, and she wouldn't let me use the clinics. And so another girl with them got some clinics, and I said, did what I said. Well, they were her clinics. If she don't want you to have a clinic, why are you complaining about it? I said, and then your friend went and got you some, so why? I said, so little bitty things, like you said, you got to be able to, with wisdom, choose the right situation and choose the right side to be on. But, eventually I had a talk with her about that. But my son, never knew that. But yeah, you just, You just got to make sure that you're making that wisdom call. And you do have to be an advocate for your kid. I must admit, you got to be so. But anyway, yep. Good conversation.
Yeah, so I think it was a good one. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. Agnes, Denise, Deacon Holmes, Dan, the others. Thank y'all for tuning in. And I hope you got something out of this. I know some of us are grandparents, but we can take the tips as well. Because my daughter-in-law's, I know my daughter-in-law, she's good about always making sure that the teachers get little gifts and stuff like that. But if I see something, I'll pick it up too. I said, well, you probably already got something, but here's something else. So, it doesn't hurt. But, I don't care whether it's school, church, work, whatever it is. When we work together and respect each other, it's all better.
It is so much better. If we could just all get along. And there's nothing like having unity and everybody communicating on both sides. Like you said, you got to be able to talk to one another. And I think that's one of the worst things we can do is make an assumption. Oh, she don't like my son. She don't like my child. Teacher I don't like him. I don't like his mom, all that. If we could just kind of sit down, have a conversation, some adult conversation, and then we also have to go around and communicate with our children too, and make sure they are representing us the way we've taught them. And they can be a little bit easily influenced, so you can't always just be ready to jump on the teacher and take their side. You got to be able to talk to one another and see where the issue is, because in the end, you want your child to be, you want them to get the best possible education.
That's right.
And so you don't want to make sure that you're doing anything to hinder that. But nothing like going around giving that teacher a little love, because sometimes what they say, a little bit of honey will change a lot of stuff, better than vinegar or something like that. My grandma said, give them some honey.
Yes.
They're going to be attracted to that. And it is just like you said, sometimes it's a kind word, something, I appreciate you. And even sometimes the worst teacher's attitude may change by you being kinder to them. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad to see you, sis, and be on here with you.
It's been so long.
We can't let it go that long anymore.
Not ever again. No. Not ever again. Yeah.
But it's this month is already flying, so I can't believe it's second Thursday or second Saturday. But this is second Saturday, and on second Saturday it's conversation with the guys, and the guys are going to be on here Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they're talking about what's the fastest way a man can ruin his life. And these guys don't pull any punches. They have some hot topics and some hot responses, I tell you. So we're going to have Coach Ricardo Miller, Deacon Dan Smith, Derek Durden, and Dr. Coach Kevin Wilbon. So you've never been witnessed these four guys. Y'all got to check them out. 9:30 a.m. Saturday. I tell you.
Great lineup.
Yes. So thank you so much. And as we talk about blueprint for success this year, we're also declaring Jeremiah 29:11 over your lives, because you know the plans that God has for you. And he doesn't want you to have no foolishness, no disaster. He wants you to have prosperity, and as well the future that you hope for. So as you design your blueprint for success based on the plans that God has given you, make sure you put in the work and build your best life. And remember, building your best life is our business. That's not a slogan. It's our commitment. I love you. Be blessed. Stay safe. And you have anything else you want to say, sis, before we go?
No, sis, other than one of the ministers at our church talked to our kids, and she said, teachers and students, read Ephesians 6 and put on the full armor of God every day. So that's all I want to say. Put it on. Make sure you're suiting up your child and yourself, and the teachers also. Same thing.
Oh, I like that.
All right, it was awesome.
That's good. All right, y'all have a blessed rest of your day. Love you.